Hello. Garland Nixon here. Plenty to talk about as always. This time we're going to talk about the Hunter Biden story, but not just from a perspective of Hunter Biden. We're going to look at it through the grand scheme of things and see what this means. The issue of corruption, the issue of overthrowing countries and doing things of nefarious and miscreant deeds in foreign lands. Let's talk. Hello, Garland here, and it is time to chat and have fun. And we're going to talk about the Hunter Biden story. There's some new information coming out, and as we know, it is pure Russian bot propaganda information. Don't believe a word of it. And you know what's interesting? It's Russian propaganda conspiracy theories. That's what it is. We don't want any of those Russian propaganda conspiracy theories. In fact, let's do this. Let's find out before we look into it. Let's see. Hunter Biden. Let's look up Russian and conspiracy. Let's see what we get. There we go. Here's the one we got to look at. My God, Russia ramps up the crazy with Biolab's presentation featuring Hunter Biden. Russia. Can you believe Russia's like, Hunter Biden? We got a new conspiracy theory, and it has to do with his laptop and biolabs. Oh, here's another one. Of all people. Tucker Carlson surprised no one by parroting new Russian conspiracy theories. Well, Russian conspiracy theory. Fox News parroted Russian conspiracy propaganda, not just theories, propaganda. That's the worst kind of theories. Linking Hunter Biden to Ukrainian biolabs that was disseminated by the Kremlin to justify its invasion of Ukraine. You know, that's the worst kind. Russian, they got it all. It's conspiracy theory, lies, propaganda, and Kremlin all in one paragraph. My God, we know that couldn't possibly be true. And that darn Tucker Carlson, a Russian bot that he is. Now, let's move to exclusive. Hunter Biden did help secure millions in funding for U.S. contractors in Ukraine, specializing in deadly pathogen research, laptop emails reveal, raising more question about the disgraced son of the vice president. Man, now the Daily Mail is in. I should have known those Russian conspiracy sons of guns would be involved. The Russian government held a press conference Thursday claiming that Hunter Biden helped finance a military bioweapons research program in Ukraine. Lies from the pits of hell. It had to be. How do we know it's a lie? Because it came from the Russian Department of Defense, Ministry of Defense, whatever. We know it was a lie. The Russians said it. Let's go on. However, the allegations were branded a brazen propaganda ploy to justify President Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine and sow discord. Well, you know, those Russians love to sow discord. They just like run around with seeds of discord, just throwing them around, throwing fertilizer, watering them, and watching those little discord seeds just grow all over the place. That's how Russian is. You sow the seeds of discord, and before you know it, you got fields of discord. Fields of that stuff growing. And then the way things are going, we're going to need to cut it down and start eating it soon. Yummy discord soup. But let's continue. But emails and correspondence obtained by dailymail.com from Hunter's abandoned laptop show the claims may well be true. Well, we may have a field of sown discord, but maybe there's some truth. The emails show Hunter helped secure millions of dollars of funding for MetaBiota, a Department of Defense contractor specializing in research on pandemic-causing diseases. I can't think of any pandemic-causing diseases that we've had to deal with lately, so that could in no way be connected to anything whatsoever that we would look at and say, hey, pandemic causes disease, because we haven't had any pandemics. What was the last one? 1918, 19 or something. That's the last time we had a pandemic. So there's nothing to see here. I should just end it now. But just because I like to read these crazy Russian conspiracy theories, we must continue. He also introduced Metabiota to an alleged corrupt Ukrainian gas firm, Burisma, for a science project involving high biosecurity level in labs in Ukraine. I thought there were no biosecurity level. Oops. They raised several $1 million of funding for the company from investment giants, including Goldman Sachs. Now, keep in mind something. To be quite honest, even though at the time he was hooked on crack, I think that all of these people really came to Hunter Biden because of his extraordinary acumen in the field of gas in Ukraine and in the field of pandemic-related pathogens. That's what it was. Let's not get out of line and think that it was anything else. All right, let's continue. The commander. Oh, there we go. So, intelligence experts have said the Russian military leader's allegations were a brazen propaganda ploy to justify Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine and sow discord. Brazen. That's the worst kind of propaganda ploys, the real brazen ones. So let's see. But emails from Hunter's abandoned laptop show he helped. Okay, so let's go on. He introduced Metabiota to an alleged corrupt Ukrainian gas firm, Burisma, for a science project. Okay. And although Metabiota is ostensibly a medical data company, its vice president emailed Hunter in 2014 describing how they could assert Ukraine's cultural and economic independence from Russia, an unusual goal. Now, think about this. Let's go back to this a second before we move on. I have alleged, as have many people who are in the know about this, that in February of 2014, the United States facilitated a coup and overthrew the government of Ukraine, installed a pro-American government, and installed Joe Biden as the effective viceroy or governor. Joe Biden was running the country at this particular time. That was in February. Roughly a month or so later, his son was also in Ukraine or in contact with people in Ukraine, and a whole hell of a lot of money was exchanging hands. Does anyone other than me think that perhaps that is suspicious behavior? Let's continue. What do you know? They even got the documents. Metabiota is a Department of Defense contractor specializing in research on pandemic-causing diseases that could be used as bioweapons. What's interesting is the Russians have alleged that these were bioweapons laboratories. I don't know that they were, but the Russians have alleged that they are bioweapons lab. They were used as bioweapon laboratories. Now, just because we have a Department of Defense contractor that specializes in research on pandemic-causing diseases that could be used as bioweapons, that doesn't mean they were bioweapons labs. But maybe that's a breadcrumb that we can continue to look at. So let's go. Now, if you think it's Russian propaganda, it looks like that the Daily Mail has gotten actual documents, names, everything, from the laptop. Let's continue. In April of 2014, a scant, barely month and a half after the U.S. facilitated the coup, Metabiota Vice President Mary Gutierrez wrote a memo to Hunter outlining how they could assert Ukraine's culture and economic independence from Russia. Thanks so much for taking time out of your intense schedule to meet with Kathy and I on Tuesday. We very much enjoyed our discussion. So Joe Biden was running the country, and his son was running from place to place trying to get paid. So let's continue. Now, people don't like my ads. You don't like my ads. All right. 4 days after Gutierrez's April 2014 email, Burisma executive Vadim Pozharsky wrote to Hunter, revealing that the then vice president's son had pitched a science project involving Burisma and Metabiota in Ukraine. Please find few initial points to be discussed for the purposes of analyzing potential of this, as you called, science Ukraine project. So Burisma, who was paying him $80,000 a month, also seemed to be involved. And look at this. There's the documents. Department of Defense, awarding agency, definitive contract, Metabiota, $18.4 million. Government spending records show the Department of Defense awarded an $18 million contract to Metabiota February 2014, between February and November 2016, with $307,000 earmarked for the Ukraine research project. Emails and defense contract data reviewed by Daily Mail suggest that Hunter had a prominent role in making sure Metabiota was able to conduct its pathogen research just a few hundred miles from the border with Russia. The project turned into a national security liability for Ukraine with Russian forces. So, does anyone think it stinks of corruption that the United States overthrows a government that within 2 months, the government's son is then facilitating Department of Defense contracts in that country? And it also appears that shortly after the United States overthrew the government of Ukraine, very shortly, within a month, the United States was discussing building and or facilitating biolabs in that country. Those things, one would have to look at that and say, it stinks to high heaven. There's something rotten in Denmark. Metabiota has worked in Ukraine for Black & Veatch, a U.S. defense contractor with deep ties to military intelligence, which built secure labs in Ukraine that analyzed killer diseases and bioweapons. The president's son and his colleagues invested $500,000 in Metabiota through their firm. Wrote, so he's the president's son. The president is in charge of the country that we just overthrew, and he is investing money into that company and getting gigantic contracts for the company. Emails show Hunter was particularly involved in Metabiota's operations in Ukraine. Hunter's pitches to investors claim they not only organized funding for the firm, they also helped it get new customers, including government agencies in case of Metabiota. Former senior CIA officer Sam Faddis, who has reviewed emails on Hunter's laptop, told DailyMail.com that the offers to help assert Ukraine's independence was odd for a biotech executive. It raises the question, what is the real purpose of this venture? It's very odd. How about that? We continue now, and they've got more. Russia's defense ministry on Thursday put out a diagram with arrows connecting Biden, Soros, and the Democratic Party to Ukraine biolabs. So I don't know where it is, but how about this? The president's son and his colleagues invested $500,000 in Metabiota through their firm Rosemont Seneca Technology Partners. They raised several million dollars of funding for the company from investment giants, including Goldman Sachs. So we overthrow the country, and next thing you know, Hunter Biden's in there in one way or the other, in spirit, if not in physical form. And he's raising money for defense contractors. He's raising money for biotech firms. He's investing money in biotech firms. He's lending out his office to biotech firms that are getting defense contracts. He's connecting them to people. He's doing all this stuff. Bottom line is this: after the United States overthrew the government of Ukraine, let's not forget Pelosi's child was in there, not a child, an adult. Romney's. Rosemont Seneca was also one of the other the partners was Teresa Hines, John Kerry's wife's son. John Kerry's stepson was also involved in Rosemont Seneca. So here's what I'm getting at. And look at that. There are the actual letters. And it says Guterres had a leading role in Metabiota's Ukraine operations, meeting with other company executives and U.S. and Ukraine military officials in October 2016. At the time, Hunter was serving as a board member of Ukrainian gas firm Burisma, owned by top government official and allegedly corrupt billionaire Mykola Zlochevsky. 4 days after Gutierrez's email, Burisma executive Vladimir Pozharky wrote to Hunter revealing that the then vice president's son had pitched a science project involving Burisma and Metabiota in Ukraine. So, his father was the vice president of the United States and in charge of relations with Ukraine. So why was Hunter not only on the board of a suspect Ukrainian gas firm, but also hooked up with a company working on bioweapons research? It's an obvious Russian propaganda attempt to take advantage of this, is it? But it doesn't change the fact there seems to be something that needs to be explored here. That's like saying the Russians said that this guy robbed a bank. Did he rob a bank? Well, certainly. Now, that's a Russian propaganda. No, it's not. It's a bank robbery. But the Russians pointed it out. Would you prefer that, I don't know, the Hungarians pointed it out? The New Zealand? Would that change it? The fact of the matter is something's rotten in Denmark. Government records show the Department of Defense awarded an $18 million contract to Metabiota. Okay, so it goes on in that. So then it goes on to say, let's see if we got anything else here. In another deep sign of the deep ties between Metabiota and Department of Defense, Hunter's RSTP business partner, Rosemont Seneca, the technology partner's business partner, Rob Walker, said he would have a friend out the Department of Defense on the down low. Listen to this. Hunter's business partner, Rob Walker, said he would, quote, have a friend reach out to Department of Defense on the down low in order to prove the company's bona fides to prospect investors Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley on the down low. What does that mean? Right? Metabiota, listen to this. You'll love this. Metabiota also has close ties to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, suspected to be the source of the COVID-19 outbreak. Now, let's not forget, it has also been alleged that they were working on bat coronaviruses. It has been alleged by the Russians that they were working on bat coronaviruses at the Ukraine biolabs. We don't know that it's true. It's been alleged. Now, as they said at the beginning, why this was all Russian propaganda, but it's true. So here we have a company that was working with the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And it has been alleged that the same kind of work was going on in Ukraine. Metabiota has been an official partner of EcoHealth Alliance since 2014. I'm just going to say this. I'm not saying that this is a smoking gun. You're smart enough to figure it out. You're smart enough to figure it out. You know, after 4 straight years of hearing Donald Trump is compromised. He's compromised to the Russians. The Russians have something in every single thing we were told would be found. Not a single thing was found. There was a bunch of people charging with process crimes, lying to the FBI. That's what they got a bunch of people for, saying they thought they were called on Tuesday, but they were really called on Wednesday, so they charged them. For 4 straight years, Trump is a Russian bot. None of it came true. In fact, I said this then. What was Donald Trump impeached for? Donald Trump was impeached over Ukraine. And what happened? He was trying to get an investigation started into Joe Biden and Hunter Biden's dealings in Ukraine. And they impeached him for really basically nothing. But in hindsight, it's like Garland robbed the bank and some guy accused him for robbing bank. Well, that man must go to jail for making that accusations. It certainly seems like Donald Trump was getting flack because he was over the target. In looking at this now and going backwards, let me add something else. At the time that Donald Trump said, look, There needs to be an investigation into Hunter Biden and Joe Biden in Ukraine because they're up to no good. And he was accused of trying to get an investigation started and twisting the arm of President Zelensky, and that was illegal, and they had to impeach him. At that time, the FBI had this laptop. We found that they had it this time. At the time that Donald Trump was being impeached, had the FBI come out and said, oh, well, we got a laptop and look at all of this compromising information in it. At that time, how could they have went forward with it? What if the FBI had come out and said, well, we do have a lot of information. Certainly appears that Joe, well, at least at minimum, Hunter was up to questionable business practices, and it is a valid thing to feel that they should be looked into. If the FBI had come forward and said that, and they had this laptop at the time, impeachment would have had to be thrown out. They couldn't have moved forward with that. Let me add this. There's another question that I have. At the time that was going on, for a year, the FBI had this laptop. Here's my next question. How come they didn't do an investigation? The FBI had this laptop for a year, which means they had smoking guns. You look through that laptop, it's like, oh, there's some bad dirt there. So the question has to be to the FBI. You had a laptop that certainly had compromising information on Hunter Biden. Certainly it appears that there was some criminal activity afoot. At minimum, there was probable cause to believe that crimes may have occurred. And the whole time Donald Trump was in office, the FBI just hid it, didn't say a word, never said it existed. The FBI never said this laptop existed until Rudy Giuliani's people came out and the New York Post came out with it. And when the New York Post, think about this, let's keep going with that. The New York Post came out and said, there's this laptop and it's Hunter Biden's laptop and it's full of incriminating evidence. Now, what happened at that time? Politico ran an article, and the article said we've got 15, 51, 511, I don't know, a whole bunch of former intelligence people, FBI, CIA, on, and they all think this has the earmarks of Russian propaganda. That's what's Politico put it out, and these were retired intelligence people, right? But at that time, the FBI had the laptop, and the FBI knew that the allegations were valid. They knew that it wasn't propaganda. Think about that. At the time, that's the big one. At the time that just before the election, when Rudy Giuliani and company released the information on the laptop, when the however many former intelligence people came out and said it has the quote, we don't have any evidence that it's Russian propaganda, but it has the earmarks of whatever that means. The most distant, they distanced themselves from saying that it was Russian propaganda, but they basically threw the word Russian propaganda in the paragraph, so it would appear. So this goes out, it's reported everywhere on the news. 15 intelligence, 51, however many former intelligence people say they think that's Russian propaganda. So it's everywhere on the news. At that time, Twitter, Facebook, Google, everywhere is censoring everybody. This is possible Russian propaganda. It has the earmarks of Russian propaganda. You're not allowed to say this anywhere because you could interfere with the election with Russian propaganda. But at that time, when all that was going on, the FBI had the laptop hard drive in, and they knew it wasn't. So one would ask oneself, one would say, why would the FBI sit on their laurels, whatever laurels are, sit on their laurels and watch everybody say this is Russian propaganda, and watch former intelligence officials say this is Russian propaganda? Watch all this thing going on when they had a copy of it and they knew it wasn't. In other words, the FBI was part of the scam. They were in on it. They were part of the cover-up. This is a giant criminal enterprise. The FBI was involved. Don't forget something you might not know. The FBI, Comey and company, guess what they did after the U.S. overthrew after the U.S. overthrew the government of Ukraine? they immediately put a group of people. Let me watch this. FBI, anti-corruption unit, Ukraine, Ukraine. Boom. Let me find it. There we go. It was called NABU. I don't even know if it's okay. There's NABU. I'm going to share that. So think about this. Was the FBI involved? Here's something you might want to know. Look at this. Let me show this to you. NABU. The National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine. About NABU. Leadership, framework, Baba, history of NABU. Let's look at the history. The National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine is a central executive agency with a special status responsible for preventing, detecting, terminating, instigating, and disclosing corruption and other criminal offenses within its jurisdiction as well. So, at the same time, Hunter Biden is raising money. His dad is in charge. The United States overthrows the government of Ukraine, puts Joe Biden in charge of Ukraine. The FBI, look at this, creates an anti-corruption unit in Ukraine. And Joe Biden's boys and the rest of this crooked crew are getting PAID. They are bringing in Goldman Sachs. They're bringing in everybody they can. They're getting loot all over the place. They're getting paid. And the FBI is there to fight corruption in Ukraine. What do you know about that? Look at this. So the Anti-Corruption Bureau, let's go back to that. They've got 850 proceedings under investigation, 379 notices of suspicion, 670 accused, 360 indictments. If they're going to eradicate and prevent corruption, isn't that interesting? But for some reason, in their very difficult and hard-working journey to prevent corruption, they couldn't figure out what was going on with Hunter Biden. But that same FBI who was fighting corruption in Ukraine at exactly the same time, they're fighting corruption in Ukraine. Oh, Hunter Biden is in Ukraine getting $80,000 a month from one company. He's investing $500,000 in a biotech firm that is involved in deadly pathogens that cause pandemics. A particular company that works with EcoHealth Alliance and the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And Hunter Biden's involved with them in business deals. And the FBI, and this is the tell, this is the real giveaway. The FBI is there fighting corruption. But when Donald Trump says to the president of Ukraine, but Joe Biden and Hunter's been up to no good, I want you to do some investigation. What he should have been able to do would be call NABU. He should have been able to call the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, which under the FBI, and say, I want you to do an investigation into Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, because that's what the FBI is supposed to do, right? But something tells me it wouldn't have done much good. Do you have the feeling that Hunter Biden was the tip of the iceberg? Let me tell you another thing that you may want to know. Another name, Amos Hochstein. Who is Amos Hochstein? Look his name up. Amos Hochstein is a guy, the way I found out about him was prior to the Ukraine war, Joe Biden and the company was trying to do everything they could to stop Germany from completing a project called the Nord Stream 2 pipeline that they were doing along in partnership with Russia. And that was going to pump gas to Germany, bypassing Ukraine. And Germany was going to get cheaper gas and wasn't going to have to deal with Ukraine. So the United States didn't like that. So Joe Biden brought this guy in named Amos Hochstein and said, Amos Hochstein, go to Europe. Your job is to try to stop that. When I looked up Amos Hochstein, you know what I found? When Joe Biden's son and all of these other people were in Ukraine getting their getting their contracts and all that kind of stuff. Amos Hochstein was also in Ukraine. The biggest gas company in Ukraine, the state gas company owned by the government, is called Naftogaz. It's the equivalent of Gazprom in Russia. It's the state-owned gas company that creates gas, does gas-related stuff, called Naftogaz, right? While Hunter Biden sat on the board of directors for Burisma Gas Company, Amos Hochstein came to Ukraine after the coup, and he got hired on the board of directors for Naftogaz. You see where I'm going? And then Joe Biden brings him back and says, your job is to stop Nord Stream 2. Well, he has a little experience with that, doesn't he? So my point is this. When the United States does regime change, do you think for 1 second, if you go into Iraq, in my previous life of something that I did a while back, I had a lot of very, very wealthy clients. And one client went to his house. He called me, hey, I just bought a new house. I said, all right, come over there to talk to him and meet with him. He bought a house on the Chesapeake Bay, millions, no doubt, big millions and millions of dollars this house was. And we talked, he told me what basically we worked out what we were going to do, the services that I was providing for him. Okay. Bottom line was, he was in Iraq after the United States overthrew the Iraqi government. And his job was, he was appointed under L. Paul Bremer or H. Paul Bremer or whatever. He was appointed as the ambassador of Iraq for the Iraqi government, but it was just a puppet government named by the United States. The dude had unlimited money. There was no doubt in my mind that this guy had went in Iraq and he had got paid in the biggest kind of way. Here's my point. When the United States overthrows these governments, Iraq, Libya, Smibia, whatever, right? Part of the game, and see, that's one of the reasons they were mad at Trump. I ain't no Trump fan, but me, I'm an independent. I hate all these parties and their leaders. I think they're all crooks. Part of the game plan is you overthrow a country. You now go into the country and pick the bones. You send your kids in, your wife in, your relatives in, your business partners in, and you use the leverage you have in this country to get paid. If you understand Ukraine, you understand it's one of the most corrupt countries in the world. Perfect for the United States to overthrow. Joe Biden comes in, Pelosi's kids, everybody comes in, and it's a free-for-all. They're preying on the country. Now, you might have heard this story again, but let me tell you again, in case you don't understand, some of you might be on and you might not know how Vladimir Zelensky became president. If you do, you can go on about your business. If you don't, you need to hear. After the United States overthrew the government, there was a billionaire by the name of Igor Kolomoisky. He owned 1+1 Media, the largest media company in Ukraine. He started a TV show called, let me ask you something. Anybody remember a show called Madam Secretary, where it was a Secretary of State and the woman looked just like Hillary? It was obvious that it was like a game, that it was a CIA project to get Hillary elected. Madam Secretary, the woman looked like Hillary. She was the Secretary of State. And you're like, oh, wow, she's great. Why, she's just like Hillary. I want to vote for Hillary when she, it was obviously a CIA game out of Hollywood, right? Clearly. Okay. Well, they took it one further in Ukraine. They took it one further. In Ukraine, Igor Kolomoisky, 1+1 Media, he starts a show and he calls it The Servant of the People. And the star he personally picked was a guy named Vladimir Zelensky, a comedian. And in the TV show, Zelensky was a teacher who became president. And as president of Ukraine, in the show, he wanted Ukraine to go into NATO and the EU. This went on from like 2015 to 2017. In 2017, this same billionaire, Igor Kolomoisky, who has said, I don't know for sure, I can't track this down yet, but he's said to be the controlling interest of Burisma. Igor Kolomoisky, so he's got a show, and people that know say, man, that show just got unreasonable promotion. It was promoted all the time everywhere. So Zelensky is the president, and he wants to go into EU, and he wants, again, I've heard it was, pedestrian at best. It was an okay show. All right. 2 years after the show comes on, Igor Kolomoisky funds a political party, and he names the political party after the show, the Servant of the People Party. He then takes the star of the show, Vladimir Zelensky, and makes him the presidential candidate and funds him, and he wins. He gets 75% of the vote. And that's how Vladimir Zelensky becomes president. And now we see him standing in front of green screens. We see him showing off. We see him reading scripts. I mean, does anybody believe that Vladimir Zelensky wrote the speech that he gave to the British Parliament, where he referred to like Churchill? Then he comes to the United States, and there's a speech that he reads, and he refers to Martin Luther King. Does anybody really believe that a guy from Ukraine is invoking the legacies of Churchill and Martin Luther King, and he wrote those? That they weren't written in CIA and MI6 or some public relations intelligence related schmuck? That's Vladimir Zelensky. So now when people talk about President Zelensky, it's actor Zelensky. He's playing the role of the president. And the whole thing is a scam. It's a scam. It's a big scam. That's why they had to impeach Trump. Trump pointed to the scam unknowingly. Trump said, we need to do an investigation into Ukraine. And boom, they're like, whoa, my God, man. We're getting a mountain of money out of Ukraine. And you're going to point to that? And we got bio labs there doing all kinds of things that we might not want people to know about. And people start looking over there. And think about this. All that's going on in Ukraine. 2 years later, what's the center of the world right now? What is everything all about? It's all about Ukraine. Remember, Rudy Giuliani goes to Ukraine and he starts doing investigations to find out what was going on there. What do they go? Giuliani's up to no good. They charged him with a crime. I don't know, I forgot what he's charged with. Giuliani's charged with a crime for going to Ukraine and sniffing under rocks to try to find out what the hell was going on. Why? They couldn't afford. Look, they got the FBI's national NABU, the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine. Let me tell you something. You know my background. I was a law enforcement official. I work with the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. I've worked with a lot of them, right? Okay, I was up there. What the hell is the FBI doing in Ukraine? The FBI is supposed to be in people violating the law and crossing state lines. They're supposed to be in charge of terrorism, kidnapping, bank robberies. They have a pretty tight schedule, and they have a pretty well-defined mission, and it ain't got nothing to do with Ukraine. The FBI, if they go overseas, it should be to interrogate a suspect for something here. It is a law enforcement, a federal law enforcement agency for the United States. They are not supposed to be in other countries. They don't have any authority in any other countries. What the bloody hell is the FBI doing in Ukraine, starting an organization called the National Anti-Corruption Bureau? Might I add this? They're also connected to Russiagate. How? Paul Manafort, he worked in Ukraine. And when he was the chairman of Donald Trump's campaign, one of the things that happened is this infamous Black Ledger came out. And the ledger came out with information that, like, Paul Manafort was getting information from some shady characters in Ukraine, and Manafort had to step down. And immediately after the election was out, it came out that it was a fraud, that the infamous Black Ledger from Ukraine was a fraud. And you know who was behind that? NABU. NABU was involved. They're the ones that passed it. So the National Anti-Corruption Bureau is involved in passing bad information from the most corrupt country in the world to affect Donald Trump's campaign as part of the Russiagate hoax. And to take his campaign manager, again, I think both parties are brainwashed cults. I hate them both. But let me ask you this. Does that sound like the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine? And let me ask you this. We believe in democracy. We got to stand up for Ukraine's democracy. If that were the case, wouldn't we fund Ukraine to have their own anti-corruption bureau? Why would we send our people over to set up our anti-corruption bureau? And let me ask you this. How good of a job did they do? Ukraine was was before the Russians came out with their big stick, one of the most corrupt countries on earth. So the National Anti-Corruption Bureau is working in the most corrupt country on earth. And from that, they send false information to the United States. They're involved in creating and emanating false information to affect the presidential campaign. The FBI has Hunter Biden's laptop, and they know all this crap that Hunter Biden was going on with in Ukraine. And when Donald Trump points to that something's dirty and Donald Trump is getting impeached, they don't come out and say, well, you can't impeach him. Why? Because he's right. We got the goods here. We got all of the information. Yeah, Hunter Biden was up to some dirt. They don't even say they have it. They keep it quiet until Rudy Giuliani comes up with a copy of it. Then all of a sudden they're like, oh, yeah, that. You know, I well, I think we might have something. Let me check under. Hold on, let me check them out. What do you know? We got the same laptop. You know, I don't know. I think somebody gave it to me a year ago. I don't know what I did with it, and maybe I just stuck it in my desk. You know, totally skipped my mind. But now that Rudy Giuliani's come up with a copy of the hard drive, it just kind of, you know, how things jar your memory, and you're like, duh, oh, that's right, I forgot about something. It jarred my memory. I opened my desk. I had like a couple of Snickers in there, so there was like a candy bar melted on it. That's gross. You shouldn't do that. I could have mice in here or something. But at any rate, I open it and I'm like, damn, there's that hard drive. Jeez, holy moly. Oh, well, that's what they did. That's the game they played. So now, are you starting to get a grasp on the deal in Ukraine? And I will add this. It has been said that nothing went on in Ukraine that the Russians didn't know. That the Russians, because, you know, let's not forget, Ukraine used to be part of the Soviet Union, right? That the Russians had intelligence in Ukraine from, as they used to say in law enforcement, from asshole appetite. Okay, they had intelligence everywhere, which means they got anything they got the goods. Which means, in all likelihood, they already knew these were here. They probably knew what was going on. They had spies all over the place. The Russian intelligence was all over Ukraine. They got a lot more than they're telling right now, a whole lot more that they're holding on. I would suspect that they're holding on to some real grenades to throw when and if they need to, which means this, man, how compromised is Joe Biden? When they said that Donald Trump's a Russian bot, he's compromised. Well, it's still to this day, there's no evidence that's ever been brought forward of it. I mean, the SAP still believe it, but based on what I'm seeing, the big guy, and it was like, yes, they got information and they could twist Trump's arm and make him do things. Based on what I'm seeing about Joe Biden, he is as compromised as any president has ever been in history. And what's coming next? It's NABU. Let me. Somebody just said NAB. I'll show again. Let me share this again for those that didn't see it. You might want to go here, and it is. Look right there. The National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine. Bad news. You guys are going out of business. There ain't no Ukraine left. Look at that. It says NABU completes investigation into UAH 2.5 million of unjustified bonuses. Indictment against Vincennia District Court head. Let me ask you a question, though. That's the FBI. What are they doing criminal justice work in Ukraine? They don't have any authority, it sounds to me. But you know what they were doing, I think? I think they were, it's like a criminal enterprise, and a criminal enterprise that owns the police. You know, you go to these countries and some of these countries and everybody's compromised, the judges, the police, everybody. Well, they were part of the corruption. The National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, I suspect, was corrupt itself. Let's see if we can look at anything else. Leadership. We'll get some names. Look at this. Okay, these are the okay, and these are all. This is all run by the FBI. I don't know any of these people, but they're all Ukrainian. Mission and symbols. We don't even want to look at that. They probably got investigative jurisdiction. They probably got like the Wolf's Angel or something that the Azov Battalion is wearing. No thanks, not interested. Frequently asked questions. Do you know Hunter Biden, and do you have a bag of money you can pass? That's it. How crooked is that, brother? How crooked is that? So there we have it. The big question, and this is a question that nobody, for all this is a question that nobody has asked, and I'm just not shocked. People don't want to go against the FBI, but here's the question. Based on what's coming out of the Hunter Biden laptop now, why did the FBI hold on to Hunter Biden's laptop for a year, not disclose that they had it, when Donald Trump was impeached for asking for an investigation into potential illegal activity by Hunter Biden and Joe Biden in Ukraine? Why didn't they reveal then that they had the laptop hard drive and that they had information that would show that Trump's allegations were at minimum meritorious, that there was at minimum probable cause to believe that a crime may have been committed? Why didn't they come forward? Why is it that they didn't come forward until after Rudy Giuliani came out with the cut package with the laptop, a hard drive himself? And why is it that when the mainstream media started saying that the laptop was Russian propaganda and that it wasn't, that it was a Russian operation, a Russian propaganda operation, and that when an article came out in Politico that said like 15 or 51, whatever number it was, that all of these retired intelligence operations thought that the story about the laptop was Russian propaganda, and the FBI had the laptop at that time, why didn't they come out and say, nah, it's real, we got a copy? Sounds suspicious? It does to me. That's all I'm saying. It just sounds highly suspicious. All right, thanks a lot. My name's Garland Nixon, at Garland Nixon on Twitter. If you're watching this on Twitter, don't forget, go to my YouTube channel and follow me on YouTube. Oh, I'm on Odyssey now, so I got to get this Odyssey thing figured out. That's interesting. I'm on Odyssey. Odyssey's neat because when I signed up for Odyssey, it appears that it goes over to YouTube and yanks all of your videos off of YouTube. So that if YouTube cuts you off, and the stuff I'm talking about, it wouldn't shock me if they cut me off. If you hear about how's Garland, well, he was smaller. He was flying in a small plane in a remote mountainous area, and yeah, but the reality is I'm really a nobody. But the bottom line is this: there's a lot of people looking into the stuff that I'm looking into. But the truth is, if they crap me out on YouTube, which is always a possibility, then I'll still be on Odyssey, and all of these videos will be there. So I'm going to start, putting my stuff up on Odyssey and figure out how to stream from there, and how to hopefully do super chats and super stickers and all that stuff this weekend. So this weekend I'll figure that out. So hopefully I'm trying to get some some money together to really, advance my cause here. What I'd like to do is I'd like to get what the Rodecaster has, this awesome mixer where you can take phone calls, and I think that would be cool, like a radio show where I actually take phone calls. I think that'd be cool. At any rate, thanks a lot. Garland Nixon, at Garland Nixon on Twitter. Garland, well, I ain't even gonna bother with Instagram and Facebook because I'm locked out of there. I think I got to build a new account anyway. They tossed me off, and they clandestinely did this. What they did was, on Facebook, one day something pops up and it says, Facebook Protect is here to protect your privacy. In order to be protected, you must click on this thing here. It will send a number to your phone, and then you put this number in and you can get in. I clicked it, it sends the number, I put it in, and it won't do it. No matter how many times, it won't do it. Then I go online and I look and I see this thing that says Facebook Protect. Some people have been locked permanently out. And I talk to other friends of mine, and they're like journalists who push against the mainstream narrative. And I'm like, oh, I see what that was. It was a game. It was a way to get rid of all the Russian bots. In other words, I've come to find out when you hear the word Russian propaganda, it usually means it's true. And they're getting out ahead of it early. But for those of us who don't trust the mainstream narrative, who do our own research and push back on it with facts and detailed information and share that stuff with you, guess what? They are tossing us off of Facebook, and this Facebook Protect scam was a way that they got a lot of us off. So I'll try to figure out how to start another stinking Facebook page and all that kind of stuff, and go follow myself and, whatever the case may be, my old page. But at any rate, find out if my old page is there. They probably took it down. At any rate, thanks a lot at Garland Nixon on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, go to my YouTube page. Everybody smash that like button, hit that like button. Go to my YouTube page where you can like, you can share, subscribe, share this on all of your platforms. Thanks a lot. I'm tired, long day. I've done 2 shows, and this is my 3rd one. So tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., 3 people. Regis Tremblay for 20 minutes. Dan Lazar for 20 minutes. Dr. Gerald Horn for 20 minutes. That's going to be fun. I'm going to have a blast. A great show. 10 o'clock Monday morning. I got kicked off 3. Old Ollie says I got kicked off 3 Facebook pages. Let's see what else we got. Anybody else says anything? Chicken patty. We love chicken patty, don't we? DW. If war actually broke out in Ukraine, the first thing that's going to happen is all the media is going down because they don't want people informed. Kinky says, I told you, Garland, the sync capabilities of Odyssey. And I listened to you. Thanks a lot, Kinky. The Republicans knew this was all bull crap from the beginning. It's interesting that they did. But, that's why I can't be a member of either party. Because what happens is there's certain things you have to believe if you're a member of one of the parties. If you're a Republican, you have to not believe anything about Russia, but anything that's told you about China or the Chinese Communist Party, they're the enemies. You got to believe whatever you're told about them. You've got a set or a group of enemies, depending on what culture in. You have to hate that group. And I say, when the United States tells me I got to hate this other country, group, or whatever, I don't believe it. Chicken Patty says, because Biden was to be installed as POTUS in the near future. Yeah, I kind of think so. DW is in Ukraine. I have to believe they got some of their guys over there just as well. It's a trade-off. Nancy says, Steve, I heard that term somewhere else today. What's this say? Instead of sending another AK-47 to a Nazi, wouldn't it be nice if they sent me that money to offset high gas prices? But no, arms for Nazis much more important. That's right, Kinky. The bottom line is, you saw what this thing was with Hunter Biden. It's a game, man. It's a game. They're all getting paid. It's about how do they get money. That's what it's about. How can they take our tax dollars and distribute it amongst them and their friends? That's all it is. And we're hip to it. And there was a time when they could befuddle us, they could lie to us, they could cheat us, and we would buy it, but not anymore. Now, what are we going to do? You know what we're going to do? We're going to do our own research. We're going to talk about it. And when they kick us off YouTube, we're going to go to Rumble and Odyssey and Locals and wherever and Sovereign and what's the other one? Whichever ones we have to go to. Odyssey. Whatever. We're going to go there. We're going to go to Telegram when they kick us off of Facebook and Twitter. We're going to go to Getter. I'm not on Getter. There's another one, Truth Something, wherever it is. Wherever they kick us off, we're going to keep going. We don't die. We multiply, right? We're going to keep going. So now the harder they push us, and here's what happens. If we start talking about something and they all throw us off of platforms for talking about that, that's how we know we're over the target. And we're all going to stay. That's where we got to look. Look at that. They're saying that this is Russian disinformation. We all got to look. Hey, don't look there. It's Russian disinformation. It's another conspiracy theory. It's QAnon. And we're like, thank you for pointing me in that direction. Now I know I got to do some information there. Now, if they start see if they were smart, they just publish it and say, hey, it's true. You know what's funny? Let me just say this. Prior to the invasion of Russia, I was a person, I'm like, yeah, I don't think they're going to invade. A lot of people did. And the biggest, if I'm honest with myself, if I'm truly honest with Garland Nixon, You know, the biggest reason, I mean, I could see, I had other people saying, yeah, that's going to happen. I didn't believe it. And you know why I didn't believe it? Because the mainstream media and the mainstream narrative was saying it, and I don't believe them about anything. So the truth is, the one time they were right, I was wrong because I didn't believe them, because they're always wrong. Even when they were right, I couldn't believe them because I never believe them about anything. And 99.9% of the time, that's how I know I'm right. But as far as me, I missed that one because for a change, that's how they can screw us. Just tell us the truth and we'll never believe it. Think about that. Tell us the truth, we'll never believe it. But you got too many sheep out here that whatever they tell them, they're going to believe. So, you know, I don't beats the hell out of me. We're going to keep going though. We actually enjoy this. Well, I'm tired and I got to do a show in the morning and I'm trying to enjoy life. I don't know about you. This stuff's kind of, to be honest, sometimes I get a little, I can get anxious. Sometimes, and this is a weird thing because I'm just talking, we're amongst friends, and so I'm at the end of my show. Sometimes, um, like when I get in bed at night, late at night, you know, get in bed and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna relax. And sometimes I get to running, my mind gets running about all this stuff that's going on there. And I just think about it. And I think about our future. And I'm like, are we going to get at one point I was like, oh my God, are we going to get nuked? Right. And now I don't believe we're going to. I'm pretty sure that the US government does not want to get involved. Yeah, Pat Socialite says Garland can't say goodbye. Yeah, because I'm kind of tired and I'm just chatting now and I got time. And then I'm pretty sure the U.S. government does not want the leadership of the government, in particular the Pentagon, does not want to get involved in a kinetic war with Russia for a number of reasons, which I articulated in my last video. But I was on that tip for a while. And then it was like, oh, what's the future going to be like here? Are we going to live in some dystopian moonscaped hellhole where, you know, a dozen eggs is, you know, $10 an egg, where we can barely eat and we're all, you know, nobody even has colors anymore. You know, those dystopian movies, like the Hunger Games, where in the big city, everything's bright colors. But when you get out to the little, the towns where they do all the work and they all just work all day, everything's gray. Is everything just going to be gray? We're not even going to be allowed to wear like a bright orange thing. All your clothes have to be gray, dystopian hellscape. Oh no! Oh, is that next? So I don't know. You know, well, hey, I want to go buy a car. Sorry, $900,000 for a used Toyota Corolla, and that's a 2008, and it's got 205,000 miles. But unfortunately, you need a bushel barrel of dollars now to buy a slab of bacon. I don't know. So then that'll freak me out. But in, you know, chicken patty, I know that no matter how expensive eggs are, I can go to chicken patty and I can get enough to make an omelet. How about that? That's how tight chicken patty and I always got enough to make an omelet for breakfast and some potatoes and onions. So yeah, you know. But at any rate, all right. Thanks a lot. Soylent Green, it's people. And Soylent Green, what year was that set in? 2022. The movie Soylent Green was set in 2022. It's people, you all. It's people. All right. Thanks a lot, all. Have fun and see you all 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And if you're on Twitter watching this, go to my YouTube page and make sure you like, share, subscribe. And for those of you who can't afford it, I have a Patreon page, patreon.com/Garland Nixon. I have one person there. I have one person who's doing $1 a month. It would be nice if some people could do 5 or 10 or 20, because I want to, you know, fund a very nice, get a really nice studio. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm just, whatever money I get, I'm going to set it aside. When I get $1,000, by then I'll be able to get a dozen eggs and a piece of bacon. But hopefully I'll be able to take phone calls and all kinds of stuff. All right. Thanks a lot. Peace. I'm out.